Thank you all for coming in and joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. We're excited to share with you all very exciting opportunity to kind of help you all as coaches as you get ready for our upcoming summer season, specifically around softball and some tools that we've developed to make your lives a little bit easier. We got a couple coaches still joining in, so we're going to give it a couple minutes before we jump into the meat and potatoes, but we're excited to share this opportunity with you. I see a handful of you all that were here for that were with us for soccer season. So we piloted this for the first time in the spring with soccer, and it was really well received by our soccer coaches. So we were excited to try it out for softball. So we'll get started and we'll let the rest of them in as they arrive. But without further ado, we have streamlined our season registration process to align with our entry forms for regional competitions, specifically as it relates to the submission of your entry forms going into the regional competition period. We wanted to basically align all the preseason rosters that you guys are receiving from us at SoCo, and all the people that have registered with us, and the season rosters that you guys are adding, all the people who are participating with you guys throughout the season, where we're sharing all of our athlete application and Class A dates. So you have that all kind of housed in one centralized location, and then also provide you the opportunity to submit all your team entry forms for the regional competition utilizing that same preseason roster that you guys have received from us. The reasons we're doing this: one, we wanted to eliminate some repetitive work and duplicated work that you guys are doing on your end. So essentially what these preseason rosters have available to you all is first name, last name, full legal names that have been provided to us by the athletes as they register, which is very helpful, so that as we're entering it into our competition database, we're entering the correct person. So eliminating some of that kind of duplicated work where you guys have to review your rosters and make sure that it's the correct John Smith that's being entered onto your team. So that's one reason why we're going in this way. It's also going to provide you with all the date of births that were provided to us through registration as well. So it's going to eliminate that need of you guys having to go to your teams and have to collect all the dates of birth for roster submissions. If you already have that available on these rosters, it's going to make that process a little bit easier. It's going to have all your contact information, and then it's also going to provide us with an easy way for us to share all the expiration dates for athlete applications and Class A's and give it to you starting now at the beginning of the season, so you have it available, so you're not waiting for that report to come to you in that 2-week period after you've submitted your rosters, to then start the scramble of getting people to submit their athlete applications in Class A's. If you have that available to you now you can get started on it and start communicating with everybody and make sure that we have all that information ready to go. Everybody's prepared and set for the competition period before the regionals come up. So essentially trying to improve your guys' workload and quality of life as we go through this. Now, I do want to preface this before we jump into kind of like the how-to and all the steps that you need to do to kind of fill out your rosters. I also wanted to preface it by saying that you could still utilize the old softball rosters that we've used years prior and that we showcased on the coaches preseason conference call earlier last month or this month. So we're not requiring that you use these entry forms. We want to give you the opportunity. We do think it's going to make your lives easier to utilize them and submit them. But for those of you who are comfortable with the process as it's been in the past, we'll still accept those entry forms as well. So I just wanted to mention that too. Now we'll jump into it. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I wanted to start off by showing you guys the rosters that we're talking about. So everybody see my screen? Yep. Okay, great. So this is a template of a roster that we've used as an example. So those of you who at this point, all of you who should have received a preseason roster that looks like this, that's unique for your team, that you can utilize going into the season. You would have received it from your regional manager. They would have been communicating with you about the players on your roster, your practice details, and all that stuff. This is the roster that we're talking about, and we're going to go through on how to complete it. Essentially, here on this side, you're going to see all the information that was provided to you during the preseason. So the athlete application status, your Class A status, first name, last name, the individual's role. So you're talking about athlete versus unified partner, their age group, date of birth, gender, contact information, and then everything here is going to be new. So this will be blank when you see it on your sheet. This is all the competition specific information that we're going to be asking for you guys to provide us that will align with the preseason information that we've provided you. That will then use to enter your team officially into the competition. So wanted to give you an example of what we're talking about as it pertains to the rosters itself. Now, I also want to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and reshare again. Now we created a how-to document that can serve as a guide and help you in navigating step-by-step how to complete this form, right? So first off, this has already been provided to you by email and will also be provided again in a follow-up email along with a recording of this call. But here it's really going to walk you through to just the most minute details on how to complete your roster utilizing the form that I just showed you a second ago. So first things first, you're going to access the shared roster through the link that was provided to you by your regional manager. Now we use the term shared roster because both you as a coach and your regional manager both have access to it and will be able to make edits into the same form. So there's no need to like save it to your computer or your desktop or anything like that. This form lives in the cloud and in the web. So there's just open opportunity for you guys to provide us with details in real time that we will see on our end and then be able to make edits on our side as well. So let's say, Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Mike from Parker Power, he has a new athlete that attends practice that didn't register with us. He's able to go and access the link, add in first name, last name on his end, date of birth, contact information, whatever details he has. We'll see it as he's entering it on our side, and then be able to add all of our notes to it. So essentially, if you need us to look at John Smith's athlete application status, add John Smith to your roster, just shoot your regional manager a note letting them know that you've added them to the roster, and then we'll go in and add the athlete application and Class A status on our end on the roster as well. So you'll then be able to see it in full with all the details that you provide us, along with the details that we can provide you. So really the kind of cool benefit of us having that shared capacity with these rosters. Now we'll go into the next bit, coach information. So in the columns, F through M is where we're going to collect all your coach information for the competition as well. This is the information that we want you to provide us of who we need to be in touch with on the day of a competition, right? So who's going to be the point of contact for your team? So if it's not yourself and it's somebody else that's going to be that we need to share schedules and divisions and all the competition specific information, please include that information for that individual as well, so that they are also receiving the information from us in a timely manner. Also, just please note that if you have unified partners on your team, the head coach for the team cannot also be a player on the team as a unified partner. So make sure that there's a distinction there. In columns F through K, make sure that you're providing us all with the relevant information around name, the role, the age group, their date of birth and gender. So these are the new people that you've added manually to your roster that weren't already included in the preseason roster that we've shared with you at the start of the season. If you don't have the contact information, it's not necessarily required. The things that are important for us to know are the first name, last name, and the date of birth, and the role, if they're an athlete or unified partner. So that way we can assign them the proper, put you guys in the proper division for the competition. So if you have an all athlete team, you'll be in a traditional division. If you have athletes and unified partners, you'll be in that unified division as well. So I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna stop sharing because I'm having some trouble kind of navigating here. I'm gonna try to do two things once and share my screen here. Apologies. All right, and then I'm gonna share this so I can go back and forth.
Adrian, someone just mentioned if you could make your screen bigger because it's hard to see it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can do that. Is that better? That look okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, great. All right. I'm still having a difficult time going through this. All right, so I'm gonna just try to figure out how to get back and forth, and sorry for it. The technical difficulties on my end. All right, for my friends at Special Olympics, does anybody know how to get rid of the little black bar at the top of the screen when you're screen sharing that shows you how to mute and stop video and stuff? Because I can't figure out how to make that go away and be able to go back and forth between tabs. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. Maybe not.
You should be able to move it to the bottom of your screen. Like the bar itself should be movable.
Is it? Oh, yeah, it is. Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
I'm glad you joined the call. All right, so I'm going to try to bounce back and forth the how-to document and then also the template itself, so I can give you guys some more direction on what I'm talking about in the how-to document and where to find it in the respective file itself. So as we're talking about the athlete unified partner information and submitting it in columns F through K, basically F through K are these columns here. So the first name, last name, role, age group, date of birth, and gender. That's the information that's most relevant to us. Not necessarily, you don't need to worry about the age group piece. We can kind of make that informed assessment based off of the date of birth, but this is where you're going to be providing the information for new folks. So essentially you would just add it here to the first open row that you haven't submitted any information, and you could just start entering the person that is going to be joining your team, and then just continue on down and we'll be able to add them from there. So moving on, now we're going to go start talking about the competition specific information that we're going to be collecting. So you're going to choose your event from the drop down menu. So essentially here in column T, you're going to see event highlighted in yellow. You'll have the opportunity to select the event that you're going to be attending. So whether that's the Western Region Softball Tournament or the Front Range Softball Tournament, you'll be able to select which opportunity is the one that your team is going to plan on attending. Next, you're going to complete if you're in a modified division. So you'll select yes or no. Then, do you plan on attending state in addition to the regional competition too? So this is helpful just so that we know how to prepare going into our state competition, so you can change your entry from yes or no based off of what you're planning on attending. Are you missing any key players? This is specific to teams that are returning from last year. So if you've attended before, if you're missing any key players, let us know, because that's going to be really helpful for us as we go through the divisioning process. So let's say you were a level 1 team last year and 3 of your level 1 athletes have not returned to the team or not going to be participating in that season, and now you're going to be like a level 3 team. Letting us know that there's been those changes will help us make those adjustments so that we put you in an appropriate division going into this upcoming season, instead of utilizing last year's division as a guide, because we do use that as a reference point as well. Here in this drop down, you're going to select your team level from 1 to level 4. So basically, we want to know if you're a level 1 team or top level teams of top level division, all the way down to our level 4 teams, which are, you know, an entry level beginner, more of that modified division skill set as well. And then kind of similar to, are you missing key players? If you're stronger than last year, if your team's equal to the same kind of ability levels last year, or if you think your team's weaker from the year prior. So any questions here on this specific information, or is there anything else that the team would like to elaborate on?
Adrian, can I just touch base quickly on the modified division and kind of what
Please.
that looks like?
Yeah, please do.
That is, it's not the best name for it, so we're taking suggestions. There we go. I'll take suggestions. Once I explain it, share some good names, and the winner will get a little prize. Basically, it's for athletes that aren't, you know, quite hitting the ball every single time off from a pitcher. It's definitely not for athletes. It's definitely a slower paced game. And any coaches that have some modified teams, if you guys want to jump into to talk about it, athletes are able to use a tee. They have the ability to use a tee. It's not 3 strikes and then they get to use the tee. It's played typically like softball. Every batter gets 4 balls and 3 strikes. But prior to each at bat, the athletes can choose whether they would like to be pitched to or hit from a tee. So I would say it's maybe not the best for someone who maybe is having a hard time seeing the ball coming towards them, but once they can kind of hit a rocket shot off the tee. It's really for the athletes that are developing the skills to move from our skills competition all the way up to, you know, being able to play in those traditional games. So again, it's a little bit slower paced. It's a little bit more learning of the game. It's great for the for some of the younger teams coming in, so they have the ability. It's kind of like a combination of T-ball, regular ball, and obviously kind of encourage everyone to eventually get to being pitched to in those situations. But I just wanted to keep that in mind. So if you have questions on that, you can reach out to regional managers. You can reach out to us. I would say most of those teams are probably going to be more so in that level 3-4 category. So if you have a level 1 team that you're entering on the modified, we might be reaching out just to talk through that and see what that looks like. Just to make sure we've got everybody in the right place to make the best competition as well.
Thanks for that, Susan. All right, so when you come back to this how-to document, you'll find all the competition specific answers here in section 5. And then we've also included a guide, so just like a quick photo of what we're talking about when we're referencing it here in section 5, and it's everything that we just covered there. So now we'll go on into the team play portion, and this is where you're going to start submitting the information specific to your athletes and your unified partners who are going to be competing in the event itself. So on the roster itself, you're going to be using column U. That's going to be where you're indicating if the player's competing. In the cell, you'll be able to click the pop-up arrow and do the same thing, yes or no, if they're joining the team. And then in column T is where you're going to indicate the team name that the individual is participating on. So for those of you that have maybe multiple teams within your one master roster, so let's say Parker Power 1, Parker Power 2, you'll be able to assign them to the appropriate team using this column, and I'll show you the example here shortly. So essentially here you add some kind of just some more clarity around if your program is going to be entered into the competition, you have multiple teams, how to distinguish them, and then the opportunity is available for us to create multiple tabs for your team roster, one specific to each team, if that is something that's helpful for you, or we can just house it all on the one main roster. One thing to note, players can only be on one roster, so you can't add them to two different teams if you have multiple teams. The rosters are 15 players total with 2 alternates. And then alternates also can only be on one team as well. Also, please don't delete anybody from your roster. If there's going to be somebody who's not going to be attending the competition, just don't assign them to team. You can leave those fields blank. And then if you need to add somebody to the roster, like I mentioned earlier, you can add them to the fields below. So I'm going to walk you through it here in the roster itself. Here's the competition team name. So you can add the individuals to the specific team that you plan on having them join. So this team has a blue and a Colorado Kickers blue and white. So for the coaches themselves, they're going to be the coaches for both teams. So add Kickers blue and white so that they receive the same information for both teams. Then as you're going through the competition team name, you're going to be adding each individual name to each individual that's going to be joining the team. And then for individuals like this one, they're not going to be part of either one of the teams. Maybe they're participating in skills. You're going to just leave that field blank, right? And then you're going to say that they're not participating with the team. So, say no. And then as you go along, you're just going to continue down your team name. So let's say Jill is going to be on Kickers blue, then Jackie's going to be on Colorado Kickers white. It'll just allow you the opportunity to place them on the respective team they're going to join for the competition. Any questions on adding people to a competition team and what team they're going to be joining? Great. Now, the next field that you're going to be entering is also their individual team rating. So this is the same thing that you guys have been doing year over year, where you're assessing your individuals at practices and then determining what their ability level is on a 1 to 4 scale, 1 being highest rated level, and then 4 being your beginner introductory level, needs support, kind of that on-field guidance and stuff. Here's where you're going to provide us with that detail on that 1 to 4 level so that we know a general assessment for your team as a whole. We'll take that team average, and then that's what we'll use to division your team in the appropriate division. So if your team averages out, you got a couple 1s, some 2s and 3s, then we're going to go based off of the individual ratings that you provide us, along with the team rating that you alerted us to there. Kind of find the best match for a competition, a team that you're going to be competing against at the regional competition. So this is where you're providing your individual team rating. When coming back to the how-to document, the how-to document will also share information on how to submit your athletes who are going to be participating in the individual All-Star Skills Challenge. So if you have any athletes that are going to be doing skills and not participating in team play, you can also complete that on this roster as well. So coming back to the roster here on columns X, Y, and Z, you'll see the field here is the individual competing in individual skills, yes or no. You'll have this drop-down menu available to you as well, where you can click yes or no, depending if they're attending. If they're attending, select yes. There's a field here that does the athlete utilize a wheelchair, yes or no. Again, the drop-down menu, you can select which one applies for the individual, and then what their score was from the competition, from the practices that you assess them. That will be their entry score for the competition itself. So here they scored a 47, and you'll just enter that there. So pretty straightforward as it relates to the skills competition. One thing to note, athletes can only participate in either team play or individual skills play. They can't participate in both. One last thing that I wanted to just note here, for anybody that's an alternate on your team, when you're including their team name, just also put -alternate, so that we know that that individual is going to be an alternate for the Colorado Kickers Blue. I'll pause here. Questions?
Okay, on cell T on the very, very top, where it says event,
Yep.
okay. Drop down.
Yep.
Would you- Is that the dates for regionals then?
No.
Okay, I was confused. I was like, wait a minute. Okay,
Actually, yes, sorry.
Yes, it is.
7:30 for Western softball. That is correct, right, Susan?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Western means
Okay.
what?
Western
yes.
softball is July 30th, and then Front Range softball will be August 5th.
So what areas does the Western cover? I just need to
Western
know what my
region-
kids are going to do.
Sorry, what part of the state do you live in?
We are with Dave Ritzma.
You're on the Front Range then, so
We are
you're-
at the Front Range.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're in the Northeast region.
Yeah, we are
Yeah, with Elizabeth. So yeah,
Okay.
your competition will be the Front Range softball tournament
on
August
8/5.
5th. Yes.
Okay, because people are already asking me, so,
Yeah.
okay,
Great.
okay.
Other questions?
Adrian, I think I missed it and you may have just already talked about it, and so I apologize, but if we have multiple teams
Yep.
and the different team levels are different, like we had two last year with Rocky Mountain, we had a higher level team and we had a lower level team. There's only one slot there for one team for that team level. What would I do if I have multiple teams?
Yeah, that's a great question. We can make an adaptation here. So what we could do is just add another field below here, essentially, that what we'll do, I think we'll do just add a field here that will look exactly the same as this one. And then we'll do, like, basically you could do Rocky Mountain adults, and then Rocky Mountain youth. And then you can just select the appropriate field for each one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect.
That would work. Okay, so we'll make that modification before we send out, and you'll see that directly on your rosters. So those of you that have multiple teams, as you're going through the entry process, if you need help completing this section, just reach out to your regional manager and we'll make this modification for you.
Wasn't it, didn't that help desk thing say that another tab would be created on the Excel
We can do
spreadsheet?
that as well. Yeah, so
Is
it's,
there preference for you all for entries? Because we have to share a copy to entries either way.
Yeah, for
super
us,
easy.
it's really what works best for you guys as coaches. So if you want to keep everything on one central roster, we can do that. We also have the opportunity here. So if you look, we've separated the template out for the white and the blue. So we can, as you're going through the process of submitting your entry, if you would like for help from a regional manager of creating multiple tabs, let us know. We're happy to do that for you and move the people around from your rosters. So we're not losing anybody during the kind of just transfer period. Or we can just keep everything on the one roster and then just go through this this process here of adding the second field.
Okay, as a team administrator,
Mhm.
when we show up for regionals and state, should I have a copy of this in my hand?
Nope.
Or will
we
you
will have
guys
all of
already
that
have one?
on our end? Yeah,
Okay.
we will be sending you out. So what, Tamara, essentially what will happen is you guys are going to provide us with this information. This will
Okay,
then get entered into our competition database.
okay,
We'll create another competition team roster
okay,
that we will share with you guys by email in advance of the competition.
okay,
That you'll have for review, just to double
Okay.
check that everybody's on the correct team, that we
Okay.
didn't miss anybody along the way in the entry
all
process.
right. Sounds
Um,
good.
You'll get that a couple weeks beforehand. You'll be able to just
Okay.
make any changes, and then you'll also receive that on
Okay,
the day of the competition as well, with
all right,
score sheets and all that stuff.
all right, thank you.
So anyway, Beth, back to your question. I think it's kind of what works best for you all as coaches. This is a new process and a new system that we're implementing. So if you guys have feedback on like a preference of it being, you know, having a different roster on each tab for your team, or just kind of keeping it all in one centralized location because it's easier for you to manage and navigate, welcome that feedback. The regional managers will work with you guys on making those adjustments and modifications to your rosters to make it kind of fit your team specific needs. Other questions?
I have another question.
Shoot.
So related to if it's like multiple tabs or anything, if they're not coming to competition, I know you said don't delete them on there. Is there a reason that we're going to keep it on that shared roster, or?
Yeah, we just want to be able to still see who's been practicing with you guys and who's still a member of the team, even though they're not competing. It'll just give us more of a well-rounded idea of our collective participation on all of our teams. So yeah.
Okay. Because then I would say, like, yeah, the tabs are definitely good to keep it separate for team wise, but then almost another tab for individuals that practice that aren't able to compete potentially.
Okay, yeah. If that cleans it up for you guys, that could work too. Any other questions? All right. I'm going to come back to the how-to document. So then basically that's it of all the information that's specific to how to complete the roster itself. Now here at the bottom, we have just general guidelines and reminders about the submitting entry forms, right? So team rosters are 15 max. You get the 2 alternates. A player can only participate on one roster at the competition or in the skills competition. The just general age divisions that we have available. So our 22, we have 8 to 15, 16 to 21, and 22 plus. We did mention on the call for those of you that might have 16-year-olds participating with a 22 plus adult team. The 16 to 21 category can also play up into the 22 plus division as well. We go by the highest, the oldest age on your roster. So if you have an 8 to 15 team and you also have an athlete who's 45 years old, that team gets put into a adult division. So if you have any of those unique scenarios, please connect with your regional manager as soon as you can, so we can chat through what the best situation for your team and what the best division would look like for your team in advance of the regional competition. Last thing here is how to submit your entry form. So we have a new email where we're collecting all of our entry forms. That's this one, entries@specialolympicsco.org. This is where we request you to submit all your entries. Very simple. Once you've finished making all your edits, all you have to do is come up here to the share button, and then you can select share.
This will serve as our entry form then?
This will serve as your entry form, correct?
Okay, great. Okay.
Yep. You just copy the link. And then you can just paste that into an email and then send it to that email address. And then we will have that entry form available to us on our end to be able to review, edit, and submit.
Now,
for
will we have to do that twice, one for state and one for regionals, or we're the
just
same one?
regionals? You only need to submit for regionals. We will use results from regional competitions.
For state, okay.
For state, correct.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Yep. And that is it. That
Okay,
is everything you need to know about submitting and completing your softball entries.
right.
Again, the old entry forms are also still available for those who would like to utilize it. If you have any technical challenges, would like a more one-on-one walkthrough or guidance on how to submit your entry form as you approach the process, please reach out to your regional manager. We want to be here as a resource to provide you the support you need to complete these accurately. Happy to provide you with whatever needs that you guys might have. So if you need additional support, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to help. Any questions from here? Team, anything that you guys want to elaborate on? Anything that I may have missed or overlooked? Any reminders about softball in general that we should share with the group that we have? Awesome, Leslie. Excited to see how that skills team comes together. All right. Well, easy enough. Thank you all for attending. We really appreciate your time. Again, please don't hesitate if you guys have any questions. Really looking forward to seeing you all at our regional and state competitions this summer. Should be a fun and warm summer season. So looking forward to seeing you all. Thank you and have a great night.